You are beautiful.
Every single way.
Yes. Is it going live right now?
Give us a countdown.
Yep.
It's on.
Hey, we're back.
All right.
There was a glitch in the Matrix. There was nothing we could do.
No, there was absolutely nothing. That's what she
Danny
said.
worked his code and got us back.
All right. Take two.
All right. So, Danny, let me know.
Oh, we're going.
We're going live. We're here live. All right. That's how we do it in America. All right. Anyways.
We'll do it live.
Guys, welcome to our episode 10 of Blood, Sweat, and Wax. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you guys are watching this live, chatting with us, or watching this on the rewind. Thank you for just jumping in. I'm here to talk about UFC cards along with the sport itself. We got a number of fights we got to talk about, including this weekend's UFC 289 featuring Aldana versus Nunes. Also, we got to recap some of the controversial decisions that have been made, along with some stellar performances that include Mackenzie Dern from a few weeks ago. But also, we got to cap it off with talking about Panini's latest release. That is going to be tomorrow with Donruss. So with me, as always, I am blessed to be working with both Roll and Turnit here at Blood, Sweat, and Wax. It's been a while, guys.
Sure has. Good to be back.
It's good to be back. Yeah. I mean, we'll start doing this a little bit more regularly, but life happens.
Life certainly does happen.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I always look forward to talking to you guys. So
yeah,
it's great.
Well, thank you for everyone that's tuning in, and feel free to let us know what your thoughts are. We just can't get enough of the feedback that you provided so far. Thank you for everything. That's a little bit of Oakland in the background. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive into it. UFC 289 features a number of famous fighters, including rookies. We have Chris Curtis versus Nasruddin Imavov. Imavov, in the prelims. How do we see that fight unfolding, especially since Imavov had fought Strickland before 2022 was out?
I thought Strickland was going to lose that fight because I was pretty impressed with Imavov's performance beforehand. So I was impressed by Strickland, especially on short notice. I think he took it. So that fight, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because Curtis and Strickland, I think they have a podcast together now, right?
They do.
Yeah. And that impressed me. But Chris Curtis, I was excited about a while ago. And the last few, it's his responses to losing that I haven't necessarily liked. So, like, to me, it just shows maybe like a lack of mental toughness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, I see Imavov winning, but the reason I see that is because like Curtis has been pretty one-dimensional in his fights of late, and he kind of, I don't know, he just kind of gets really emotional, and I don't know, I just feel like Imavov's going to be a little bit more disciplined, and he's got a lot to prove, and this is kind of like Strickland 2.0 because they're friends, right, and they're training together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not a very technical analysis. It's just the mental state of both fighters going into this thing.
Hey, those are solid points. I mean, he did lose his most recent fight against Kelvin Gastelum, who very much needed a W to stay in the UFC. What are your thoughts, Roll?
That was a banger.
It was.
I do love Kelvin, by the way. Kelvin's a dog, but yeah, I don't know. This one's hard for me because I feel like Chris Curtis he's a really good fighter, but most of his last losses, I think the last 3 or 4 losses that he's taken were all decision losses for him. So it's going to be it's going to be good, I think, especially coming off of the what did he fight last? He fought Buckley before.
Right. KO.
Yeah. KO'd Buckley. And Buckley's, you know how I feel about Joaquin Buckley, but Joaquin Buckley's down in welterweight now, which I think is a good move for him, especially. He's a shorter guy, but he's stronger. Anyway, Yeah, in this fight, I think Imavov probably will slide past with a win, but I think this one's probably going to go to decision. I know that's probably controversial, but I think this one's probably going to decision because I think they're both counter strikers, as we saw with the fight Imavov versus Buckley. Imavov did well counter striking against Buckley. Wasn't like he was a little more gun shy than Buckley. Buckley came out swinging, and that's what really got him in trouble.
Yeah.
Chris Curtis is kind of a counter striker. Also, he's got really good boxing. He's patient, but he's almost patient to where it hurts him. I think, as we saw. God, it's escaping me. Whoever he lost to,
It was Jack
Hermanson. Jack Hermanson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a little too overly patient in that fight, and that's what really lost him the fight. Was Jack Hermanson was a go-getter, went out and got it, took the W. He was. I think Curtis was a little upset that he didn't move forward as much and just kind of waited and waited and waited. He would stick and move. So I think in this fight, I think Imavov is going to take it, in my opinion.
Oh, kidding. Oh, that's interesting. I actually have Chris Curtis taking this because this guy is action man for a reason. Why the UFC will turn to him on a dime whenever they need a replacement. He fought 6-7 times in a given year.
Yeah,
and he pretty much was like doing what Cowboy used to do. And Chris Curtis, I feel as though has the inside track when it comes to better striking, if you will, than Imavov. I'm not to shit on French people at all. I mean, both people have fought Joaquin Buckley, and Joaquin Buckley throws a lot of looping punches, and Chris Curtis saw that, and he just dove right in with crosses, and we saw what happened. But to your point, Roll, I mean, we don't know if emotions are going to be running high. Also, that Turnit you had pulled, that you had mentioned as well. So, I mean, he is a storied veteran, and he is getting a little older. So we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, that's going to be fun to watch regardless.
Yeah, I think to your point, I love those types of fighters like Cerrone. Neil Magny's one of those types of fighters. He's like, I'll fight anybody and I'll take a fight on a day notice if I have to. And I love that about those guys.
Yeah.
Like true grit. They aren't just like athletes, but they truly are fighters.
Yeah, love it.
We feel the same way about like Matt Brown, for example.
Yeah, Matt Brown.
Yeah, he looked great.
He did look fantastic. I was actually shocked at how well he performed.
Oh man, that card alone had 5 first-round knockouts in Missouri or something.
Nuts.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah, great card.
Well, hopefully we'll see that replicated sometime in 2023. But speaking of action, there is Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr in the main card. Who is not excited to watch that fight?
I'm happy Dan's back. I mean, I was sad to see Yanez lose, but I'm pumped.
Yeah. But Yanez, you mean Adrian Yanez?
Oh yeah, like his never mind. I'm sorry.
He's a Rob Font, right?
Yeah, my bad. That's
you're good. You're good, man. But 50K.
I was like, that's a quick turnaround. Holy shit.
What's Nate's nickname? Is it Runaway Train? I don't know. Is it
Nate the Train.
Nate the Train.
I love
Nate
that.
the Train in the UFC, baby. I'm a big Nate guy. I like Nate the Train a lot.
I hope we get a card out of him from this year's John Russell, or at least select.
I was hoping Prism had Nate the Train, man.
Yeah.
Disappointed. I wanted his rookie to be Prism because I think he deserves it, and he's made a statement.
Yeah.
He's another one of those guys. Just goes in and bangs, man. He loves to fight.
You know what he kind of reminds me of is like Ramon Decker. Remember that guy, the Dutch kickboxing legend?
Yes, but I can't think of what it. I let me see what he looks like. I'm gonna look up.
Yeah, but anyways,
I'm handicapped because I can't be looking stuff up.
I know. I'm cheating.
No, it's okay. It's not a bad thing.
It's like kids using ChatGPT for their homework.
Yeah. Hey, Dad, pull it up.
Yeah, I remember this dude.
It's only a matter of time.
Let's see. So, who do you guys have winning? 50K or the Train? Because it's gonna be fireworks.
Yeah, this one's tough. I think this one's tough. I think Dan Ige is going to be more technical, especially with how much improvement he's made. A lot of improvement in the last couple fights. I know he had that decision loss against Movzar.
Yeah.
and then in his last fight, dominant performance.
Yep.
And then I think Nate Landwehr, though. I mean, you can't ever look past Nate the Train. I think Nate the Train's a dog.
Yeah.
He's kind of one of those fighters like Matt Brown, who he just goes in. He's like, I don't care if I have to, if I have to throw one big looping punch every time I get a breath, that's what I'm gonna have to do. And he takes it to the wall, man.
Just roll the dice, baby.
Yeah, I love it. I love that guy. I love watching him fight.
How can you not like feel more gravitated with that kind of like character, that sort of archetype,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's true warrior spirit.
Everyone likes that kind of fighter, right? I mean, I don't think anybody dislikes people that are just willing to go out and bang and just leave it all out there, right?
Yeah. Well, speaking of like people that we are hoping to see actually does making more of their name for themselves, right, would be Mike Malott. I mean, he's featured in this year's Prism 2023. We know him as both actually he's like a first round finisher, if you will, right? Where do we see this guy taking it with Adam Fujit, who happens to actually be a pretty tough contender himself? I mean, we just saw him actually win in the very first round as well, but he's just he's kind of like off and on, if you will, because we do see him actually like losing to Michael Morales, who's actually another rookie. But where do you guys see this fight happening, or what do you guys expect?
This is exciting to me because Mike's had 2 first-round finishes his last 2 fights, which is great. I mean, you love to see that. Like in terms of just hyping, you know exactly what the UFC is going to be spamming in the lead up to that fight. So I can hear the talk track. I hear John Anik right now. And then and I'm looking at like his last fight, Yusaku, first round TKO, third round he lost to Morales.
Yep.
I don't know. This will be exciting. I don't really have a personal favorite here. I haven't watched enough tape on these guys to have a really strong perspective. Yeah. I mean, I would certainly, if I was a betting man in this scenario, I'd be like, this fight doesn't go to distance.
No, yeah, I would say
fair enough.
Mike is gonna take it. You guys know me. You guys saw my bets that I want to lay down.
Yeah.
I feel like Mike's he needs to make a name for himself, especially with this being featured in Vancouver, right? His home territory.
Yeah, he's been dying to fight there.
Yeah, and we've talked about the home advantage before. And like another thing too is I do think that's a real thing, especially in UFC. Any fighting sport, I think it's a big deal. One thing I wanted to mention too is I think we've got like, what is it? How many months in a row now where there's a UFC card every Saturday? Is it like 3, 4, 5 months in a row or something like that? I saw the statistics somewhere. And the reason I bring this up is I got to play a little bit of catch up on watching tape on some of these guys. I don't know if you guys have Fight Pass or not, but that's what I was doing beforehand. And then there's been kind of like breaks here and there, right? But I'm excited for this. Yeah, just this long stream. And you know what that means? We're going to have to do more podcasts because like with the ESPN contract, more fights, more fighters coming into the roster. Hard to keep track of a lot of these newer faces. But or not, you know what I mean by newer. It's like in terms of some of these products that are going to be rolling out. I think that's what everyone's paying attention to, right? It's like what next rookie is being released, right? It's no longer like the first prism of this big name or this big hype train. It's what rookies are missing. I feel like that's kind of the game that we're playing these days.
Yeah, a lot of subjectivity.
Yes,
wholeheartedly agree with you there. Roll, do you have any thoughts before we get into the next 2 big fights?
This one's actually more tough than in my opinion. It's probably one of the more tough ones on the card. I do have Mike Malott winning, but I can't put anything past Adam Fugit. I think looking at some of his highlights, I did look at his highlights. I again used the handicap on this one because I hadn't seen him fight very often. But it's so damn hard to keep up sometimes because you men.
There's more fights and fighters.
It's just all starts to blend together too because you watch these cards and you're like, who is this guy again? I've seen him fight. You'll look at like his you'll watch a fight and realize that you watched it a few months ago and be like, oh yeah, I like this guy.
Well,
So
yeah.
But yeah, he's slick. I think he's good. He seems to have pretty good grappling, especially up against the cage. But I think Mike Malott, dude, he's got hands of stone. Like that guy, yeah, he's got knockout power. He's got good submissions. I think he's good at jiu-jitsu. So yeah, this one's gonna probably go to Mike Malott, in my opinion. I'm with you, G. I think that's probably what's gonna happen. But this one's exciting. I'm really looking forward to this one. Surprisingly, because it's like one of the more exciting ones for me on this card.
And I feel like the pressure's on them for anybody who is fighting in a hometown to actually make a name for themselves. They don't want to go out on a boring split decision win. And Mike Malott, I feel like, is going to deliver on that. And I feel like his stock is going to rise. And Turnit, you and I just talked about this right before the podcast, that the card market right now isn't faring that well for other expansions outside of Prison 2023. I mean, you can only imagine what this will do for Mike's sort of stock.
Yeah, I can talk for probably days about the market and macro, micro, UFC, other sports. Like, it's hard to time the market, obviously, if we're talking about any class or asset class. But yeah, it's going to be recency bias now more than ever.
Right.
People are trying to make sets and complete stuff. And there's this one quote that I heard a few days ago that I thought was really great, is like, you don't try to sell Easter eggs after Easter, that's how it is right now. Is like when there's fights coming up and there's promotions happening, that's how you got to time auctions if you're going that route. Otherwise you're going to have a hard time. And I mean, being that I've been selling a lot, I've been buying a lot, but yeah, it's not great right now. And like, I'm sure anybody who's out there at the moment is trying to time them along with fights.
Sorry about that, Turnit, but we got to contact our IT support, aka Turnit, that there is McAfee's security on there we go.
That's awesome. Hey, that's not as bad. I have
we wear protection, guys. McAfee style.
So I guess this is a better time. There's no better time than now to announce our official new sponsor.
Right, McAfee.
Yeah. Speaking of,
we went up a level from Trojan. We went to antivirus.
Yeah.
Now McAfee had a raging lifestyle. How do you think he lived?
Right.
Yeah. And then one thing I'm actually shocked we haven't talked about this, but Tough is out.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I know it's a segue and it's a tangent. We don't have to go into that too much right now, but I think that is having an impact on the Conor market again, just FYI.
Yeah.
So throw that out there.
Well, hey, Conor, I don't know. I know we can get into a little later, talk about Tough.
Yeah.
But wow, that guy is just all over the place, if you will. All right. But speaking about people who are focused on winning another title contender spot, we got Charles Oliveira du Bronx versus Beneil Dariush. The former champ versus the guy who should have been fighting for the title for however many number of times. How do we see this netting out, guys?
What's the line at right now?
Oh, that's a good question.
Let's look at the line. And I ask this because I have a feeling that Charles is an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, I think that is incredible. Not because I don't think that Dariush is going to win, but up until very recently, leading up to the Gamrot fight, everybody counted him out. And that's been the story of Dariush. Is like
right. It's a slim favorite, leaning towards Beneil Dariush at minus 150 with Oliveira at plus 125.
Yeah, isn't that shocking? Like, I mean, I'm looking back at the rhetoric, and bandwagons are a real thing in UFC, right? And recency bias is a real thing. But I'm looking back at like Oliveira fighting like Islam, and obviously Islam was favored and stuff, right? But like even then, people are like, "Oh, Charles can pull it out, Superman," and like people jump off one bandwagon and go to the other.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that like after the Gamrot fight, and that was quite a good performance by Dariush, and he's had a string of good performances. I think he's got all of the right tools to be able to take Charles on, but I feel like Charles fights best as an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
He just pulls shit out of his like
Yeah.
he just his fights for me have always been entertaining. It's about perseverance. It's about like gritting your teeth, white knuckling it. Now I don't know how that's going to translate in the fight itself, but like, is Dariush afraid to go to the ground with Charles? Probably not, right? So that's different, isn't it? That's a little bit different than what Charles is used to. I mean, we saw that with Islam, and I wonder, like, are there going to be echoes of that pressure if Dariush takes down Charles? Will we see Charles like the same Charles that responds to getting taken down in his fights prior to Islam? Or are we going to see maybe him kind of buckle underneath or that? But yeah, I don't know. My heart says Charles because I love the guy, and I don't want to count him out. And watching him kind of come back, was fantastic, and his reign was fantastic. But at the same time, I think Dariush is great too. This is the fight I'm probably everybody else feels the same way. The fight I'm looking forward to the most, but would love to know what you guys think.
Roll, you want to go first?
You know how I feel. I've been on this guy for
people know.
Yeah. Well, you can attest to it. I mean, I gave you that Dariush back in the day.
Yeah.
Probably 2 years ago during that slab game. But yeah, I've been on this guy for a long time, obviously. A lot of people have. But there's a lot of new people you see start asking for him in the chats and stuff and whatnot, wanting his cards. And it's good to see because I love the guy. I think his fight style, like, I just love how he fights. His stand-up is good. Obviously, he has world-class jiu-jitsu. He's won several big titles in the jiu-jitsu community, or well, in the jiu-jitsu world. I'm just really excited to see this. I would say he's definitely not afraid to go to the ground with Charles. I think he's probably even more comfortable on the ground with Charles.
Yes.
His striking is good, but Charles, I think, has a better stand-up base. Possibly. In the fight with Close, we saw that was the fight, right, where he knocked him out. It was a comeback victory.
He was beaten up, and then he just clocked him an uppercut, I believe.
Yeah. His striking, he fell apart. He got sloppy, and but he made it happen. And that's what I love about him. I think the guy's just an animal. But his scrambles, his ability to scramble, his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. We saw that in the Gamrot fight too. I mean, he got into a bad position. Gamrot kept going in on the takedown, getting deep on the takedown, and he just instantly rolled in for, I think twice rolled in for a knee bar, and it was it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then was able to hit the switch a couple times and get out of the bad position, stand up back to his feet. He won the striking battle against Gamrot. It's like, at this point, I think he can beat anybody at lightweight. I think he's capable of it. He just has to. We have to see the same Beneil that we see in those fights.
I feel like you're a cult leader preaching the truth, and I just want to take a cup of that Hawaiian punch. I agree with you there. I mean, right now it's Dariush's time. All right.
Yeah.
He may not be the most like crazy sort of fighter in terms of his intensity. In fact, he's the complete contrast.
Very
he doesn't
calm.
move as quick. He doesn't fire off as many punches as Oliveira will. I would say
everything's deliberate.
Everything's more deliberate. Thank you. That's a better word for it. Oliveira is more complete as a fighter, I would say, where Dariush is. I want to say that he specializes the ground. I wouldn't say that he specializes in striking. He's more like a jack of all trades, but Oliveira is, I feel like, has a better submission game, obviously, because he always seems to get like the top 5 in a bad scenario and ends it that way. Even though he almost got guillotined, he almost got choked out, whatever else. Well, I think the point that you made, Roll, about Dariush's fight against Gamrot is such a solid case. It explains Oliveira and Dariush's grappling sort of differences. One fights for submission, the other one fights for position.
Yeah.
Oliveira's looking to end the fight. Even though it may not be good for him, he'll sacrifice it. Dariush, despite all the crazy attacks that Gamrot threw at him, and Gamrot being the wrestler, Dariush was still able to expose the weaknesses that Gamrot had.
It's impressive.
And yeah, it's all the way impressive. And the way I see that is like Dariush, he might not be the flashiest, but I see him winning. He's only 34, but I feel like he fights like a 52-year-old. But I see him winning.
He's got fight wisdom.
He has that wisdom. He's more deliberate, as Turnit called out, in his shots, right? And this is a fight that I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'm a Southern California native. I've got to support the community down there. So I have him winning. It's still not going to be an easy bout by no means at all. So
yeah, I feel like Charles likes it when things get messy and sloppy and all over the place. Gamrot, I thought Dariush's game plan, or at least his fight IQ mid-fight, was excellent. That one strike that sat Gamrot down was like a direct result of like reading him perfectly, right?
Yes.
With Charles, I feel like you kind of know what you're going to get, but he's a lot more risk. He's willing to take a lot more risks, like you said. I think this fight's going to be a lot closer than people think. I do think that on the IQ side, Dariush probably more tempered. I think he's got an edge there, but I don't want to count out Charles either, because he's such a dog, man. Like he's crazy. This fight I'm so excited for, and there's like year out implications to this fight.
Right.
And
that's true.
It's like if Charles wins, we're looking at like who's Islam fighting in Abu Dhabi? Are we thinking?
Is there an opponent scheduled out for him already?
I don't think so. I mean, they haven't announced anything yet.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, like, I don't think it's going to be the winner of this fight, right? Now, if Charles wins, I could easily see the request that he had, which was like, get the rematch in Brazil now, in front of my hometown, right? Now, people are like, well, if Dariush wins and he doesn't take a lot of damage, what if Dariush fights? And there's like this funny thing that people are saying, like, wouldn't it be, because like, remember the last time he won in Abu Dhabi, he gave this speech about Jesus and like beating Islam and then doing that again. Like, it's a funny scenario. But anyway, like I should probably stop reading Reddit so much. But I just think that's pretty funny. But this is, I mean, there's a lot of people coming up. Got the BMF belt coming up. I mean, lightweight is exciting again to me.
Yeah.
Like, I know people are like, oh, Islam, and like, no, this is exciting. I like this situation.
You know, I'm actually on the polar opposite, not to contend with you at all. Actually, before I get into that, I think the key to victory is if Charles can maintain his cool, right? Since 2018, 2019, he was undefeated until like he came across Islam. Up until then, like for about 10 years, I think anyways, for about like 7-8 years, he was 10-8 or something, because he just couldn't get it right. And so if he is able to align himself both mentally and physically, spiritually, all on the same plane, he'll win. However, I feel as though like right now, what's dictating me to bet on Beneil happens to be that sort of volatility, that X factor. I don't know how he's gonna actually take that loss, especially having been submitted. It wasn't a knockout; it was a submission.
Yep.
Right.
Beat him in his own game.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm not as excited as I want to be with like a lightweight scenario or even the welterweight scenario is how many times we have to see the same people fight over and over again.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know.
I'm a fan of Gaethje. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go, finish your thought.
I'm a fan of Gaethje. I'm a fan of Poirier. I buy his hot sauce. My wife is addicted to it as well. We're both obsessed with like good characters being in the UFC. Both guys are stellar. And if you look at the welterweight division, it's the same thing. I mean, hopefully we'll see Shavkat fight sooner than later, but like in the top 5. But I don't know.
I think welterweight.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jiho. we can wait for him. I was gonna make one. I was gonna make one counterpoint to lightweight because welterweight is kind of, we know what fights need to happen. It's just shit's getting held up for UFC reasons, and that to me
100%.
is a lot more frustrating because it's like, shit, man, like stop that, stop, don't do that. Whereas with the lightweights, and I want to hear Jiho's his take on this too. Here, 1 second, it's back. Hey, Jiho. Hey, I was gonna make one. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So I agree with you about welterweight, and I was talking about this with Roll just now. Welterweight to me is frustrating because we know what fights need to happen,
Right.
but they're just not happening, or they're on ice. Like Kamaru Usman versus Hamzat is being speculated. I mean, that would be great, I think, just because it's like the ushering in of a new prospect into the broader. It's like the swan song for Kamaru a little bit, but it, like that's happening for UFC reasons, and UFC reasons are frustrating as hell for fans, right? Whereas with lightweight, we've seen the same folks fight time and time again. That's true, but now that Islam's on the throne and Dariush is getting a title shot soon if he wins, I think we know that these guys like Chandler, Connor fighting each other, Dustin and like they're fighting each other as like maybe that is the curtain call to Swan Song, right? Like there's so many new prospects coming up and they're getting shots. Gamrot got a shot with Dariush. It didn't work out. We've got Arman fighting soon, right?
Yeah.
We've got all of these lightweights coming up. So we know that they're
got a shot against Gaethje.
Yeah.
And Islam's going to get tested over and over and over and over again. Like he's the king of the castle right now. And it's just going to be a test after test after test. So even if these other guys are fighting each other, the up and comers are still going to get their shots. I just think that there's a little bit more excitement there. Whereas with welterweight, I don't know. It's just, we don't know because we're not getting those data points and it's frustrating as hell. Like, I don't know what UFC is trying to do. I don't know what Dana's trying to do. Yeah, it's kind of rubbing people the wrong way. And then we've got the shitty decisions happening, which just adds to it.
Yes. So that's something that we should probably talk about right before we get into Nunes versus Aldana is how horrible has the roughing been as of late? I mean, well, actually, you know what? Let's actually park that. I just realized that right after the Nunes versus Aldana discussion, we could get into Kai Kara-France versus Amir Albazi. So let's just park that.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and talk about Nunes versus Aldana. Where do you guys see this fight taking place? I mean, who's going to win?
I thought Aldana in her last fight, like that kick was awesome, but wasn't like
Turnit, come on. You got to be direct. Did you really think it was that awesome?
I mean, I think it's always impressive when people get knocked out with body shots and shit. Like I think that a lot of people forget that shit hurts.
Yeah.
And like, can you like the Moreno versus Kai Kara-France, right? Like
that's a great one.
Yeah, like there's more ways than one to win with a knockout and not just a TKO, right? Like not just a submission. I thought Chason, because it was Chason, right? Who was fighting?
Chason.
She was looking great.
She was.
And I don't know, it's kind of, that was like a Hail Mary that worked. And Amanda in her last fight looked great. So it's more of the same, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with Amanda here.
Yes.
Hard not to. I love Aldana too. That's what sucks is like I like Aldana a lot. If you look at some of her fights before Macy Chiasson, but okay, Macy's a very good fighter. We have to put that out there. She's very good and she doesn't get enough credit. Her wrestling specifically, she has very good takedowns. And she was all over Aldana in that fight. And just that up liver kick. It was like that heel to the liver just put her out. It was like the Achilles heel.
That was the definition of Hail Mary.
Yeah, it was. It sure was.
Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman style.
But I guess my point being, Amanda is going to be stronger in the physical department.
Right.
We've seen that. She's ragdolled other fighters. I think it may have been something mentally or something in her training when Pena beat her. Plus, Pena just looked dialed in that fight. I think she was just dialed in. the universe aligned at that point. It was like everything went right for Pena and everything was going wrong for Nunes. I think Nunes is gonna probably take this one because of her physical ability, her
Yes.
natural talent, her skill level. I think Aldana may be there one day, but I just don't think she's there yet.
Yeah.
I don't think
I,
she's naturally as talented as Nunes is.
can you guys imagine if we all three of us are unanimous in our decision that
That's
Nunez is going
usually
to
when
take
something
it?
bad happens.
But
Yeah.
if Aldana takes it and wins this viciously through submission or through KO,
Yeah,
and we might be eating our words just like we did against
I always do.
Shevchenko versus Grasso, right?
I'm used to it now. I've been
I'm
humbled
not
so
used
much.
to it.
I'm a humbled man. I'm a humbled
I'm
man.
very used to it. Believe me, my takes are shit for anybody that's wondering.
Oh
For
yeah.
anyone that hasn't watched the last 9 episodes, I've been wrong about probably 80% of these fights.
You should not bet on these things. Like based on our take. I mean, look, I messed up Rob Font and Dan Ige a moment ago. Like,
It's all right. You know,
yeah.
they're
But yeah, I
kind of
mean,
similar.
yeah. They've got short names,
Right.
facial hair. But I
Facial hair.
I think what's interesting about this card also from Amanda's Legacy's perspective is I kind of saw her talking about the whole retirement thing, and she couldn't retire because of Joanna
Yes.
Pena. And I
Good
thought
point.
that's kind of like a weird thing to bring up.
Well, I think she is going to retire after this fight. I mean, what else is there
yeah,
for her to do? She
yeah,
is truly like a female goat. I think,
The lioness.
Valentina fight, the Valentina, it'll never happen.
yeah, it'll never happen. And she even mentioned it's like, what's that going to do? It's going to do nothing for me. And she said that I think, at the press conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, this one's gonna be fun.
with her retiring, and presumably with Valentina at some point retiring within the next year or two or whatever. Where does that leave women's MMA? Like,
Well,
With
I mean,
Blanchfield.
oh god, I mean, the Blanchfield is it's with Shevchenko and with whoever else is at flyweight, right?
yeah,
But the problem is like bantamweight, featherweight. Who do we have? Norma Dump Truck Dorma, right? Dumont, excuse me.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't leave us with that many options. And to
where's
tell you the
Rose?
truth,
Where's
Rose
Rose?
is the strawweight, though.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, like women's fighters. Well, Zhang Wei Li to me is like amazing. I
Yeah,
still
and also Yan Zhaonan,
yeah,
right?
she's
And then
amazing.
Amanda
Nan Jianan.
Lemos,
Yeah,
right? They're all fantastic, but they're all lighter.
yeah,
But the female fighters who tend to be heavier, like Ketlin Vieira, the last fight that she Donna, she almost beat her, and we don't even know Ketlin Vieira as a striker either. And yet, Irene Aldana, she just threw that nasty left hook, and KO'd her.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a changing of the guard.
Yeah, it is.
It's the
I'm
passing of the torch.
yeah. Mackenzie Dern is coming up. I see Zhang actually becoming even more like dominant.
Tatiana.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tatiana Suarez.
Oh yeah, Tatiana. And then I don't know what happened to Rose. I don't remember if I made this joke before, but like last time I was checking her like social media, she was like beekeeping, which is awesome. Like I should do that, like meditative stuff. But like, is she gonna fight again? She's been doing. I can't remember if we talked about this last pod or if this was on one of the streams that we had on, but uh, she was in that BJJ competition. She did okay, but she got subbed. But she's out there,
Yeah.
right? But I think the UFC needs her. Like these women are still going to be around for a while. They bring a lot of star power. They need to be in front of the camera for the UFC, and
Right.
not to see them out there and talking to people. I don't know. I just think it's necessary. People forget.
Thankfully, we do have attractive female fighters, which, I'm not saying it's hinged on that very fact.
Oh, they lean
But
into
we
that
got,
so much.
I mean, look at it. I mean, let's call it for what it is. And so, like, yeah, Mackenzie Dern winning, it's only going to raise up her stock. I mean, look at her Instagram, look at her TikTok, whatever else have you.
Yeah, they're leaning into it.
Yeah. And so it's
The
going to
UFC,
draw more people
I'm
into
talking about
it.
the UFC. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, with Kayla Harrison with PFL, man, her accolades were crazy, but the only draw on her was like she was just this muscle-bound judoka who was just gifted at MMA. But once she got beaten by an opponent that she had fought twice, um, she's no longer relevant, right? But then whereas Mackenzie Dern still has that kind of firepower.
Yeah.
But that said, what did you guys think about that fight, Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill?
Wow. They said it was divorce energy.
Divorced her.
Yeah. I didn't even know about that actually going into that fight. And then they were talking about it like every other comment. I think, or maybe that was social media. I can't remember. But I was just like, yeah, she was angry.
Yes. And she did not let up. I mean, she did not gas out. She did not release that foot off the pedal.
I was shocked actually that she was out striking and like she was just beating down.
Well, let me ask you, Roll, did you find it a little weird that she couldn't finish her arm bars, like, and then she got promoted to a third stripe black belt?
I didn't even know until 2 or 3 days ago that she got promoted. And I was like, like better timing than this. But yeah, I love Angela, man. She's another one. She's like one of those Neil Magny type fighters that's just always down. And that's what I think people love about her. I think that's her appeal.
I don't think she's even in loss and defeat.
Yeah. She's class. I like her. I think she's really cool. Dern looked great in that fight, though. I did kind of watch it out of the corner of my eye because I was working, but I was, peeking at the screen here and there, and I think I saw a majority of it. But it was a really good fight. I thought it was good. Angela hung in there. I mean, obviously, it was a dominant victory for Dern, but I mean, I was kind of surprised. I thought it was going to end sooner. I thought Dern was gonna submit her a lot sooner than that. So
I'm surprised they let it go until the fourth, right?
I mean, some of those strikes, like the flurries of strikes that didn't response, I guess it's because like it does matter if the ref knows you as a fighter, right?
Right.
Because they're like, oh, like they're not done, you know. Whereas if they don't know you, they'll be like, "Oh shit, I don't know what's going on."
It's like with any like no namer, a ref will just go in and stop it based on their discretion. But if it's like Diego Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
If it's like Cabbage Correa, right? It's just like
Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill, like that. Yeah.
Exactly. It was a bloody affair. It's not as though you have Mauro Yamasaki or the other guy. And so let's talk about another good fight that happened, but it was rather decisive. Karine Silva with a sweet Achilles lock, which actually dislocated the knee and made it pop, versus Ketlin Souza, who was like an Invicta champ, I believe, who was getting into the UFC.
I didn't see this, but I heard it, and it sounded brutal. But Roll, what do you think?
Yeah, this was another one I was kind of watching out of the corner of my eye as I was patrolling the mean streets of PI. But no, this one surprised me. The dominance. I knew she was going to go in there and do a good job, and I had a feeling she was going to win this fight. But just her all around, dude, her technique is just phenomenal. I mean, such dominant grappling. I think she's got a big future.
I mean, there's a reason why we don't reap the knee in IBJJF, right? And this is clearly the point. Reaping the knee is when you actually have the far side leg and then you toss it to the other side of the opponent, right?
Yep.
And in IBJJF, which is the most prestigious jiu-jitsu competition out there, at least for the gi, when you wear the kimono, they don't allow it. In other words, they don't allow heel hooks unless you're wearing no gi and you're at the black belt division. And so this was a showcase of that. If you know how to do technique properly, you might actually get 2 submissions to 1. So it was.
Yeah, she went straight Naga on her ass, dude. Right. That was like a Naga tournament, like watching some wrestler get their knee popped. But yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah,
that was definitely brutal.
The commentary was saying potentially career ending.
I don't know if it's career ending. I mean, we've seen Mike Braun get submitted that way from Imanati, where he actually had his ankle twisted along with his knee popped from one submission from the Imanati roll that everyone knows in jiu-jitsu and everyone tries to do until you realize that it's a one-trick pony kind of move. But he came back. I think he returned. Yeah. But then talking about something horrible, at least from my eyes, I'm not as horrible per se, but Kai Kara France versus Amir Albazi.
I
Decision,
feel like we
obviously.
have these conversations every few months.
We do.
What was the Patty one? Jesus Christ. But
Piotr Jan versus Sean O'Malley.
yeah, that one
Yeah.
maybe a little
Holly
less.
Holm against Ketlin.
Yeah, the Sean O'Malley one may be a little less so. Very ambiguous. But this last one, Kai Kara France, round 4, Lee giving it to about like
that
what?
made no sense.
How is that like? Okay, there's a difference between things being close and the fighters or like the refs kind of mismatching which fighter won the round, and then you can end up with a split decision. That happens, and like you can explain that away. But to have one ref so egregiously not in touch with reality, you're like, what the flying F is going on? And unless you address it, the rumor mill is going to run wild. And I texted you immediately. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, you did.
I was talking about this on a stream right after the fight. So 2 things happened. One, going into it, they were announcing the judges, and Sal Giamotto was listed, and I was just like, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
So that was one. I just had this like gut feeling, and like not every fight he scores is terrible, but this one I had like this feeling like I bet you something weird is going to happen. And then on top of that, at the end, there were like the one thing I swear to God, and like I found people that were saying the same exact thing on Reddit and social media after the fight. There was a little box that popped up right at the end of the fight, and it said Kai Kara France -400, and I was like, no, there's no like something bad's gonna happen. Something bad's gonna happen here, and because like my brother and I talk about this all the time. Is there's people that bet on decisions going weird when the lines are so egregious towards the end and the fight, like I don't know, I just thought it was very strange. I just thought it was very strange. And I thought something funky was going to happen. And then you see like the reaction of Izzy in his video where they're like, they announce like Albazi winning the second, like the announcement, right? So they say like, you know, the score for Kai, the score for Albazi. He's like, oh, fuck that. And you know, he knew. It's hard not to speculate on the BS going on behind the scenes.
So much BS. Yeah.
And it's exhausting to talk about all the time. Like this seems like an easy solution, right? You hold these people accountable. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I mean, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they should be hiring better, not only refs, but judges as well. And it's just astounding like that these judges are getting away with not with bloody murder, but I mean, these are people's livelihoods that they're messing around with, right? Kai Kara France put it out there that he lost 100K.
Yep.
And I can only imagine where that money could have gone. Obviously, when they look at a fighter's purse, I'd say what 10% goes to the coach, I believe, and to the gym and whatever else.
I think it's more.
I think you're right. It is more. I think
it's like 25% potentially.
That sounds closer to it, 25%. And then you have also the livelihood. You also have other things that you need to pay for, right? Medical fees.
Title implications this time.
Yes.
For Kai.
And then also to their family, right? I mean, come on. What do you want to do, these fighters? And I think it's best to find some sort of filter that you could add on to make sure that you distill better judging, like screening these judges, making sure that they actually know what it actually means to actually get a point.
Right? You know, it'd be funny if they every round, like there's some kind of mechanism where you, I don't know, like average out the judges' scores or like drop one that is an outlier or something. I don't know. I don't know. There's got to be some kind of a solution to this. And what made it worse for me, Jiho and Roll, I don't know if you saw this, was right afterwards, they did the interview with Albazi and he was calling for a title shot in Abu Dhabi. And I'm like, come on. Not here like this. Like
it's, it's kind of like how when Aljo, after defeating Cejudo, quote unquote, right? Even though I felt like Cejudo won, Aljo calling out Volkanovski, like, what
Yeah.
What's happening right now?
Like, yeah, it reminds me of Kamaru Usman calling out Jan Blachowicz. Remember that?
That was something.
I just like, what are these people smoking? It's their managers. It's Ali. It's Ali back there.
Yeah. And the people that win happened to be Ali. I mean, it was like Burns versus who was it? Burns versus Muhammad, right? And both had Ali, and Ali won at the end of the night as their manager.
Yep.
Man,
this is how sad it is. We don't even know. We don't have anything to say except this sucks.
I'm probably going to be public enemy. I didn't see it as one-sided as everybody else did, but I did have Ty winning that fight.
Yes, I had 1, 4, and 5.
Yeah, I thought it was 3-2. Yeah, I thought it was 3-2 Kai. I thought it was. I think at the time I thought it went to the 5th round, and to me that's a close fight.
Yeah,
I think where the problem is when you see something like the Chris Lee piece on round 4, and you're like, holy shit.
Well, it's like not reffing, excuse me. Judging has just gone down the toilet.
It has
think about
gone to shit.
Lomachenko, right? Including in boxing. He should have won that fight.
That's expected in boxing, I feel like.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
it shouldn't bleed into UFC.
If it's bleeding in, I mean that's the end right there. It becomes WWE at that point.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing because this is like the purest sport of all time.
That's what we still have going for it is if you get finishes, then the judges can't dictate anything.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
But the lighter weights, it's harder to get finishes, right? Like it's not so common. So that's the difference, I feel like. And it sucks. But corruption and all that crap has been in every single sport. There isn't a single one that hasn't been mired by it. There's no real proof of this. There's that one video though, little Turnit. Do you remember that video? That's like the little analysis of like the problems that UFC is facing in the betting world behind the scenes, like the legal issues that they're concerned about and judging and fight fixing and all that crap. It came out of the coach. I forgot the guy's name. Shit. Remember when that guy got arrested or not arrested, but he's being investigated and kicked out of the UFC for
not James Krause, right?
Yes, Krause.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But that sparked this video series, or this one like lengthy video on YouTube, which does a really good deep dive into the problems that the problems posed by this and the bad decisions and gambling in general because of stuff like this happening, and then the fact that they have this contract with ESPN and there's more fights and all this kind of stuff. And I haven't watched it in a while, so I'm not going to pretend like I can offer a good synopsis, but it's worth a watch. I'll add it in the comments.
Right.
If you guys haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's really well made. The guy points out facts, and it's great.
It could just go all the way. Not to say that I want to go down this conspiracy, but it could very well be like the Roman circus, right? And do you guys know about that concept?
Enlighten me, brother.
All right. So the Roman circus was one in which obviously the Roman Empire was it was one of the greatest empires that the world has ever come across. And whenever it came across situations, both economically, socially, or whatever the case might be, foreign invasion, that they threw money into what they called the Roman circus. And that was entertainment, arts, right? And they would diffuse a situation where all the tension would be coming up from economic, social unrest. Okay, and I feel as though like right now, it's kind of like that with the way with like, I'm not saying that they would maybe get into tactics into like corrupt boxing, not boxing, but corrupt judging, if you will. And that it would just entertain you. It's just like get you to talk about this more and more and fixate us on this one agenda as opposed to looking at what the real issue is. So
there's bigger problems that they're facing. All kinds of other shit. Like people are going to be mad. They'll get over it. They're going to want to watch their fights.
Right.
They'll talk about this instead of fighter pay or whatever else.
Right. And nothing to take away from these athletes because they put their heart on the line, on the line for this kind of stuff. But it's like, wow, you could really put a lot into this just to distract the macro event that's actually happening. But you're going to say something?
No. I was just reading something. Sorry.
You're good, man.
It's all good. Yeah. Should we talk about Tough? Because I think that's.
Yeah. I mean, I frankly haven't been watching Tough. I'm just watching clips, but let's go ahead.
I only watched episode 1. I haven't watched episode 2. Apparently, the numbers for episode 1 were not as big. So it's like 200,000 or something like that, I think. But I believe what I read was that it didn't factor in like people streaming it and things like that. So I take that for like with a grain of salt, but I did see an uptick in Connor auctions, which we kind of expected. What I'm worried about is that at the end of this, Connor's not going to fight because did you guys see the video of him in was it Monaco for the F1? He was
in Monaco now.
Yeah, he took his yacht. So did I talk about this with you guys? I don't judge Connor for buying that yacht because he uses that thing like a daily cruiser. Like that's his daily commuting car. Okay.
Right.
He takes that shit everywhere. Like I've never seen anyone use a yacht more often than this guy. It's amazing. Because usually like you hear about people's yachts and they're like anchored somewhere and they just sit there. No, this guy's everywhere. But yeah, he had like these balloons with like the Irish flag. He's there. Everybody in the stands can see him, and he was completely zonked out, like rolling balls. He was messed up, and I don't know how this guy could be getting ready for a fight. I don't know.
No, we know he's not going to fight, or at least I do. It's all it's all marketing, right?
It would be like a jolt of adrenaline into the UFC machine if he could just fight one more time.
I mean, I got a question.
Yeah.
Would that be the first time that the coaches didn't fight in the finale? Or after the finale?
Good question. I don't know.
Well, we know that Wanderlei never fought Chael until Bellator, I believe, right? Even though they were scheduled to fight. But then they got into that sort of skirmish.
That scuffle, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't let you get close.
Amateur.
That's so iconic now. I love that.
I love that too.
And it's funny looking back at that because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But you look at how long ago it was that they were on the... Like, I was watching Tough, I think the first season I watched, oh my God, probably season 3. And I was watching it live. That shows you how long I've been watching.
Nice.
Yeah, Tough when he had Koscheck, and he also had I Just Want to Bang Bro.
Yeah, Julian Lane.
Julian Lane, good call.
Yeah, dude, that guy. Let me bang, bro. I do let you bang. You know who was on that season?
That's freaking hilarious.
Neil Magny, baby. Neil Magny was on that season.
Was it season? Damn.
Yep. I was training with him at the time when he. I think that might have been just after the time that I was training with him at Torres. What was that season? Let me see. Tough Julian Lane. I'm gonna look it up.
And while you look at it, I have to make a comment, which is again, like I don't know how I have time to like scour all these different social media platforms and stuff, but I like reading about different people's perspectives and just seeing where like the masses are going. And occasionally I have a funny joke I can bring out of that. But one of the complaints that people were having was that the old format Tough would focus a lot more on people like drinking at the Tough House, the drama that goes with that. Whereas now it's like montages of like their background at home and stuff,
right?
Which is fine, but it doesn't make for like great moments like let him bang, bro.
Well, you know, the interesting point that you actually did bring up is that you have one where you have UFC, you want to see people brought into like more of the professional flock, right? Give it, make it more revered. But then on the opposite end, you have Slap League, right? Which is also
that's another thing that's just
which doesn't make sense.
I pretend like it doesn't even exist. It was one of my most liked Instagram comments is I just wrote, "Make this go away." And it keeps getting likes. Like every day there's more likes that come.
Right.
I was like, what is this comment? Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Usually people don't pay attention to what I have to say on there, but
yeah, no, but yeah, you're not the only one.
Yeah, it was season 16. That was in 2012.
Wow. That's fucked up.
11 years ago. Yeah, because I started at Torres in 2010, and 2012
Wow.
was when the gym moved, I think in 20 like end of 2012, early 2013. And that's when I started training closer to home because it moved to a further location. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's wild. I actually, this was another conversation I was having. I kind of just go into like monologues sometimes when I'm alone on my stream and no one's getting any Turnit packs. Um, so I was just kind of talking to myself, and one of the one of the things I was talking about was, do we have, and by we I mean like the UFC in general and like the community, anything close to a Conor McGregor emerging? I don't really see it. I think Hamzat could become something like that, but I don't know. He doesn't appeal to as bless you. I don't think he appeals to as many people as Connor would. Um, like, do we have any big stars coming up? I mean, I'm not even gonna like Patty hasn't even been ranked, so that doesn't even count.
No, but see, what we need is like, I mean, there's Sean O'Malley, but Sean O'Malley, he didn't decisively win over uh, Piotr Jan, right? He
Yeah,
knows how to shit talk a little bit, but no one has that sort of large than life. No one did that before Connor. I mean, there was Chael Sonnen, there was Rampage Jackson, but they only did so much, and then they didn't back it up. Where Mr. Mac would call the rounds, okay, Diego Brandao, I'm going to get you in this round, and then he would just go about living his life. And what was great about him is that there was psychological warfare that was happening.
yeah.
It wasn't just hurling, your mama jokes or like you're just shit. That's checkers. What he was doing was chess, right? Whether we like him or not, just for him to get into Jose Aldo's head was
Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
that was my exact thought when you
The way
said
that
mind
fight
games,
happened.
because he just completely mind effed Jose Aldo
Oh man,
to
did
the
he?
point where he fell apart. Like you could see it in his eyes before when they were squaring off, you could see it in his eyes. He's looking straight down at the canvas, looking like he's about to shit himself. And I'm like, Connor has ruined this man. Like
Right.
he's gonna lose this fight.
Yes.
And then sure enough, 30 seconds later, he's on the mat or he's on the canvas, and that was crazy.
I mean, you can make a case with like Usman being one of the most dominant welterweights, right? But he was actually bad at shit talking, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
should
Yeah.
just let his actions speak for himself, but he would
yeah.
he would try. And then Izzy, I mean, Izzy is
I like
Izzy.
it. Yeah,
Izzy's great, but the problem with Izzy is that he's not as he's not as groundbreaking. Like, okay, his style is phenomenal to watch, but when
yeah.
it comes to like trash talking again, living that sort of personal that persona both on and off the camera, I mean, Sean Strickland's more popular because of what he did to Izzy.
Sean Strickland is funny. Like he is a personality.
Self-deprecating.
If Sean Strickland was a phenom and like a champ
Yes.
with first round knockouts, I could see him becoming a force in the media because
Yeah.
Right.
he just says whatever he's thinking, and whatever he's thinking is actually kind of ridiculously weird and funny and cringe and awful
Yeah.
and like all the worst and funniest things at the same time. Uh, and Izzy, you can't be convinced that the
Mhm.
trash talk is real and sincere. Whereas with
Yep.
Connor, you know that that's like how he lives, and he's kind of like peeking into the mind of a psychopath in some ways, right? But
Mhm.
but I think like here's an interesting thing I want to throw out there.
Mm.
Is the formula somebody that the trash talk is one part of the personality?
Right.
It's attention getting, it's headline getting, and all that stuff. But if you then go and fight super high level technical MMA and you win like Izzy does,
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily result into fireworks. If you don't get finishes every single time you go out there, like Volk with his dominant performances, which are just master classes recently, but he doesn't get any finishes necessarily,
Mhm.
right? That doesn't get you there. And I feel like that getting crazy iconic finishes mixed with that crazy sort of personality is what you need. because the reason I say that is you get the Jose Aldo Connor thing, which is obvious, but then you think about like why did Jorge Masvidal have such a following for so long? That knee knockout was crazy.
Well, you know what? It's because, again, they let their actions speak for their words. There's a reason why we believe in Shavkat. There's a reason why in 2023 Prism, people are following, who is it? Renat, right? These guys are just badasses. And like they kind of live those sort of larger than life archetypes. Before we had Conor McGregor, a hilarious Irishman who would look like he would get himself pissed drunk, and just run his mouth, right? A mile a minute. Whereas you have like these crazy KGB related, we do not know, like people who may be related to like these sort of, the underworld, if you will. And then Shavkat, you had the Dagestanis, you had Khabib, right? Khabib didn't trash talk, and people still love Khabib to this day.
That takes time to marinate.
It does take a lot of time and consistency,
like
for that matter.
too, right? Like GSP.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's Rose's favorite.
Yeah, and for good reason, right? And I feel like Volk reminds me a little bit that trajectory, just a little.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love Volk.
I love Volk.
But those things take time to marinate, but they're not enough to move the needle like crazy for the broader market, enough to have like a cultural phenomenon for a decade. And maybe Hamzat will do that if he has like some ridiculous knockout of Kamaru Usman. I don't know. If like I feel like if Hamzat came out and he actually ends up fighting Kamaru Usman and he does to Usman what he did to Kevin Holland, that could be an X factor. Right. And I'm not talking about just Hamzat, like the public's interest in UFC again, right? And you couple that with Conor coming back for the Michael fight. You couple that with like Islam winning again potentially in Abu Dhabi. I mean, that's what I'm looking for is like what's going to move the needle for the sport to overshadow all of this crap that we've been talking about that I think is like casting a shadow on it. And I'm hard pressed to think of a lot of ideas here. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because at some point, I want us to do an episode where we talk about what does it mean for like thinking about the UFC card market and thinking about the long term and thinking about like collecting for your PC or holding for value. And my thoughts around this were like, you need to be thinking about if you think a card's going to go up in value, why do you think that? And you have to be very honest with yourself. And then you have to make a list of like, here's 10 things that have to happen perfectly for this card to become worth what I hope it could be worth, right? And you have to be honest with yourself. And then that's why I was going to, like, I've been telling people this forever. I feel like it's kind of cliche now, but if you are buying because you're thinking about it as an investment, not because you're collecting, you actually like the sport and the fighters, you're going to have a really bad time.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Whereas why not have a great time and then potentially have an even better time? Like that's the best way to do it.
And that's what we're trying to build out is like a better community, right? And I think that's the premise as to why we even have one of the more focal points as to why we have this podcast.
Do you guys want to do a talk like that at some point? Like just
I would love to.
That would be great. I think we should also get like a person outside of like us.
Yes.
Just provide their, nonpartisan.
100%. Awesome. Yeah. Maybe two people even just to have opinions. Like someone maybe that just started collecting and then maybe someone who like you guys have perspective on tops, which I don't. So I can't speak because like if you've lived it 10 years ago,
right.
8 years ago, then you know the cycles. You kind of know what people care about over time and what holds value, what doesn't hold value. That's what I'm interested in is like the perspectives from the tops crowd. I have my own perspectives, but they're speculative because I joined in 21. So,
well, I did too. I joined the hobby in 21.
Okay, gotcha.
So I joined in the Panini era. I joined when Prism 21 just came out. So I had no idea. I wasn't in cards. I watched, of course. I've been a fan since early 2000s, but cards for me as far as UFC cards started in 21.
Hey, you still got great perspectives though, Ro, because you're a much bigger fan of Tops than I am. I know, Jiho, you've been around probably longer than either of us in terms of collecting. And
Yeah.
we need these perspectives from different points in time because that's what people don't have access to, those perspectives on a day-to-day basis when they're on the streams and whatnot.
Yeah. I'll provide my perspective because, back in the day when we used to fashion cards out of Noah's Parks,
The
replacement wood.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I'm all for
There's
it.
somebody that I mean, I'll save that for off stream, but there's somebody that I think would be a really good guest to have on the podcast.
Ooh.
To be like somebody that's been in the hobby for a long time, and then maybe we can bring on somebody that's a little newer, like you were talking about, and just kind of compare the two perspectives
Yeah.
and see what their goals are with collecting as well as what their investment perspective is.
Yeah.
That's interesting because maybe it isn't a person that's brand spanking new, but maybe it's someone who's new into UFC, but who's been collecting cards for a while.
Yeah, I like
right?
that also. I like that also. Having a big panel in general, I think is going to be great because all of us, when we make buying choices, are making those on personal preferences, but then lots of assumptions based on what we've seen in our tiny little, windows of opportunity or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Mine's smaller than yours, Jiho. Mine's relatively similar to yours, Roll, but yours is different than mine. Like, it's going to be a good talk.
We're talking about our perspectives, right? We're not talking about something else.
Yes. Hey, this is an adult friendly program. It's a great segue into our next sponsor. Kate, what? No, I'm just
kidding. I only really collect now. I used to like to buy lots and sell them as singles, and I still do sometimes just to bullshit and have fun with the people on the app. But
yeah,
from an investment standpoint, I don't really invest in anything. I just buy everything I like, and that's why maybe I'm so happy to be doing it because I just love buying what I like, and I like the fighters. Like you guys know what I like. The fighters that I like to watch, the entertaining guys. I like to look at my card and be like, this dude's a bad dude. This dude's a bad dude. Like that's why, and no, all hype aside, that's why I started collecting some Anthony Hernandez stuff. I just like his fight style, or guys like Arnold Allen, or guys, Beneil. Like that's just who I'm into. And from an investment standpoint, probably all of those guys are probably not like super smart investments as far as cards go. GSP, Gilbert Burns, but I love those guys. I think they're awesome.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
But I believe that's how it all happened with baseball and basketball from back in the day, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're a fan of the Sixers regardless of who they have. You're a fan of the Pacers regardless of who they have in the roster.
Right.
You just keep on going after them. And I just feel like it's going to take some time. But again, I think it'd be great to actually have people on a panel like you had mentioned, Turnit, just to get their, juices going and then to have us keep on thinking about not only from a collecting perspective, but also just one for the hobby.
Yeah. I love it.
I'll just go ahead and say it. The person I was thinking about that would be super interesting to have on the podcast would be the UFC card father.
Who?
Oh, the card.
You guys, UFC
card
father on Instagram. He has like the most insane Tops collection I've ever seen in my life.
That guy that's the Godfather.
He really is. I mean, he has every big, like all the red ink autos. He's got like super rare one of ones from early top sets. Like the guy is king when it comes to Tops collections. And he's been collecting for, I'm sure. I mean, he had to have been, unless he just.
I might have ran into him at the Mint Collective role.
Yeah, he has everything.
Which guy was that guy?
I think it's like the booths that were behind us, Jiho.
That one of them was Cardfather?
I don't know for a fact, but I just know that guy or that group of guys, they have like 101 Jose Aldo's back from the day. They have like McGregor rookies, Khabib rookies and stuff, I think. And
this guy has like John Jones 1 of 1, like a bunch of different variations of John Jones 1 of 1s. He's got like all the old printing plates. It's crazy. He's got almost everything you could possibly imagine. So from a Tops perspective, he would be the guy to talk to, because if he's been collecting for, say 15 years or 10 years or whatever since UFC cards have, because they started in 2009. I mean, with Tops. What was it? Top UFC Tops Series 1, I think, was the first set that ever came out.
It was 2009 round 1.
Yeah,
Right.
round 1. Yeah, so I think he's been collecting from the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to ask him if I'll have to reach out to him and see. But
What a
he
treat that
would
would
be
be.
interesting because he's like a museum when it comes to cards, like a true museum. I mean, he's got
Right.
every big card. as
Gather
far as UFC
round,
goes.
children.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And a lot of people that are into, if we want to call, oh my God, is there going to be a day where we refer to those sets as UFC vintage cards?
yeah,
I mean, there pretty much are. I mean, people don't
That's the
recognize
vintage
them.
shit. Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny. Like, because all the sports
24
have vintage.
years, pretty much.
What is it?
Wait, I'm sorry, 24 years. That's sorry, I can't math. But no, since the beginning of UFC cards and the very beginning of like UFC becoming a huge sport, like in that time period, think about how many cards have come out, like how many different sets have come out since UFC's been released.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. That's one, and we could talk about this when we talk about the market thing. It's just like the overprinting of cards.
Yes.
I don't have a good sense of like where's the equilibrium, because Panini's looking at it from like a economic model perspective of like how can we maximize profit for this release? How can we maximize profit for this year?
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, every new release that comes out, how many new people enter the hobby as a result of that, and then want to go and collect like the initial year, like 23 Select is going to come out. How many people are going to go and get 22 Select and like, oh, I want 21. That was debut. Or
I
like,
think I think there is a halo effect, if you will, right?
yeah,
I mean, especially with Donruss just around the corner. I mean, even though it's a smaller market compared to Prism, Immaculate, and Select, I mean, there are people who are just like myself. I'm a fan of the lasers, right? I mean,
yeah.
if you don't like lasers, then you hate America for all I care. So
I have some lasers. I got some lasers.
yeah, I got some
I like
lasers.
lasers too.
Yeah, so I think
Are you
that
telling me you're a big fan of Stairmasters?
Stairmasters, hell, I own Stairmasters.
Have you heard about this parallel set in
No,
Donruss?
I'm not a fan of Stairmasters.
I've
It's
seen
just
them.
weird.
I think it's funny as hell. I think it's funny.
It is funny if you look. Yeah, it's better if you take it as funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we haven't seen the checklist come out yet. I mean, the chase obviously is going to be what rumored to be Bo Nickel, and Shavkat signing. So
That's
we'll
big. That's big.
yeah, and then you also have Raul Rosas, I believe, who also
Yeah,
signs.
he's been confirmed. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be big come tomorrow to see where they all net out. But
Yeah.
again, it's just going to be a rush. It kind of feels like Black Friday every time like a new product is released, especially with apps like Whatnot.
Oh, there's like
People
30 screens. Yeah.
yeah, people are
Yeah,
just going to
that's
go havoc.
it's essentially what it is. I mean, it's the
It's
release of a
content.
brand new product that people have
Mhm.
never seen. It's kind of the mystery factor too. Like
Right,
just being able to
right.
see something new that you've never like you open this fresh box and you don't know anything. Like you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to come out of it.
Right.
You don't know what the hit rate is. You don't know
What are
what
the
the cards look
premieres
like.
gonna look like?
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
pretty
wait.
cool.
Yeah,
It's
You're
cool,
preaching
but
to the choir.
I live vicariously through everybody else for like the first few days, and I make the determination of whether or not I'm gonna buy a pack or a box or whatever. Because I want to see. I'm like, I don't care if I'm first in. Like, I want to see what comes out of here to determine if the value is there.
that's my approach to roll is like I don't go into every set. Like Optic
Mhm.
2 didn't touch it. Select 22 didn't touch it. Chronicles 22 didn't touch it. And then 22 Immaculate. I was just like, oh baby.
Oh yeah,
Oh baby.
I'm still big on 22 Immaculate. Like, I would get a case right now and just have fun ripping it to the face. I just love it. I don't know. I don't care about hype or any of that. I just love the product. I love it so much.
I'm with you, man. That's awesome that like there's so much variety in this crap. Like if you're an
Yeah,
economist, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
it really is. People like different things.
They do.
Maybe one day I'll have as much prudence like the rest of you guys, but I had this tendency to just go after it and see what it's like. And even if I don't like it, I'm trying to beat myself over the head saying that it's going to be good one day. And
Hey, that's okay too, man. Like everyone
Yeah.
does it differently, and um, but yeah, like going back, maybe are there any other fights that we wanted to talk about, or I guess we could do another pod maybe next week where we talk about some of the other fights coming up. But is there anything else, like if we wanted to round out sort of the topics for today? I think we have some really good ideas for some podcasts that are coming up. I
yeah,
think we should actually like execute on those because right now more than ever, it's really important, I think, to be talking about these things.
hmm
A lot of people just aren't as familiar. This might be the first time they're going through a cycle. I know it is for me. I feel like I'm
right,
learning stuff all the time, and I want to share it. So
right. Yeah, I think that, I mean, number one, the fights are just going to be interesting, but we can never count out not the underdog, but the judges, right? We just don't know how they're going to net out, especially with so much controversy that's happening with them. But we just got to hang on. And I think that with even these latest product releases, it's just turned to people that you trust, right? Especially with Select coming around after Donruss, it's going to be massive. But
Yeah.
does it mean that you have to purchase it which in every way that you can? No, I would say um, find the people that you trust, go with them because they'll look after you. And it's about community. You try to build each other up. You try to make sure that the tide raises all ships. That's
yeah,
what matters.
yeah, and the community part helps a lot because of
Oh, by far.
trading. There's
Yeah.
just a lot of trading. There's a lot you can get. Like you don't have to make bad decisions to sell stuff just because you
No.
think that's the only way you're going to get what you want.
Mhm.
You can easily trade. There's so many like, and it feels great when you're so close with a bunch of people that you can just ship expensive cards and not give a crap about worrying about
No.
it's going to get lost or whatever.
Right.
It
You
was
don't have to
awesome.
be worried about trades,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Roll. Anything else you wanted to add?
I'm just. Oh, what's up, Joe?
Shout out
Hey,
to
Joe,
Joe.
good to have you in here.
Woo!
No, they have not
No, I was
released a
trying to
checklist
find
yet.
one of the guys that we used to buy from a lot. Jiho. He did a lot of Select. It was like his bread and butter. He got cases and cases and cases and cases. We used to buy into his breaks all the time. I can't think of his name for some reason.
I don't recognize the guy.
I'll think
Select.
of it later, and
Okay.
I'll have to send you a message about it because I remember him breaking like crazy, and I haven't seen him for any of the other products. I'm looking through my
Yeah.
messages on Instagram, like trying to find it, but I'm probably not going to.
Who who was selling Select? Because I was massively into 2021 Select, but not into 2022. So I'm thinking it's 2021 guy.
It's a
Yeah.
22 guy, but
22 guy.
I don't know if you bought from him a ton. I know I was buying into his breaks for a
Okay.
while, but yeah, he sold a ton of it. I just can't think of his name. I thought maybe you would think of it, but yeah, you were more into 21. I always saw you buying into 21 breaks.
Yeah, even though
I
it
loved
cost
it
me an
too,
arm and
man.
leg.
It
No.
does. It's expensive still to this day. It's expensive,
I
but it's such a great product.
I wasn't I wasn't 100% into Select. I still am not 100%, but it's growing on me. It's growing on me.
Oh.
I don't like 22 Select personally. I know it's controversial.
No, I think 2022 is like where they got a little lazy. I feel like with however many like one of ones that popped out, you're like, really? Do I need to have
Yeah.
another one of one for this variation and that one as well?
I just
It
think the
can
21 designs are beautiful relatively.
yes, yes. Have you seen the 2023 select
No,
design for other sports like
no.
football? So football just was released. It's the select 2023 FOTL was just released yesterday.
Oh, snap. I got to look at this.
Yeah, take a look at it. It's got a lot going on, but it's even though there's a lot happening with the design, you could tell that the QA, but then the quality of the paper is better, the stock.
Nice, nice. Okay.
Nice. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Well, cool, guys.
It's bugging me now. It was
Hey.
the guy that used to complain about it raining in California.
Raining California.
I can't think of a single person that's, I don't
I
know.
used to make fun of him about it because he would always complain about it raining in California, and I'd be like,
It
"Oh
never
yeah,
rains in California. Where if you
yeah, it rained
barely
one
I feel
day."
like maybe it's like in Tahoe or something. I don't know.
It rained one day, and his I think he said his basement flooded or something. I
His
I can't think of
basement.
his name.
We don't have basements in California. I don't know what that guy's talking about.
Something I don't know.
He's
Maybe I'm
off,
just.
he's living off the grid, man. he's, he's in a flood.
It was a. It was in. He was an Asian dude. I don't remember his name though, man. I can't think of his
Asian
name.
guy?
It's not
Yeah,
cool, is it?
he was one of the only guys that was
Oh,
doing
was he a Korean guy? SBC
possibly.
Marcus? No, I don't think it was
Huh?
Marcus.
He was one of the first first guys that would do select packouts. One of the first guys on the app that did it like regularly.
I don't know.
It's bugging me now, but
Not
yeah,
cool.
we can talk.
We'll,
about
we'll
cool,
circle
though.
back on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can talk about it later because it's
All
gonna,
right, yeah.
gonna take a bit probably.
Well, cool guys. This was fun.
Yeah, this has been fun. Thank you for tuning in to episode 10 of Blood, Sweat, and Wax. We're obviously going to be working on to make it more regular for everyone and make sure that, to include more people in the live chat. It's always fun to mix it up with you all. And, hope you guys enjoy UFC 289. Obviously, we're going to have some thoughts about that. But thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.